You're listening to the StoryBrand podcast, based on Donald Miller's best-selling book, Building a Story Brand. Each week on the podcast, you'll get exactly what you need to craft clear messaging that connects with more customers and grows your business.
A very big mistake people make in their messaging and their marketing, they use messages that have high cognitive load. And I see this over and over. The high cognitive load has cost politicians the White House. Like, they could have won the White House if they didn't use high cognitive load statements, and they lost. And so they always wanted to be president. They didn't get to be president because they used high cognitive load. It has cost corporations billions of dollars in market share, lost to their competitors. It has cost small businesses their survival. They literally went out of business because they were using high cognitive load statements. So what in the world am I talking about with the statement high cognitive load? I would say the statement, the phrase high cognitive load is in itself high cognitive load, but I'm the only one who gets to do that because I'm trying to explain it to you so that you don't do it. High cognitive load is when you talk over your client's head. It's when you talk over your customer's head. It's when you talk over your voter's head. And I'm telling you, the ramifications of that are severe. You don't want to do it. Whenever you are communicating about a product that you're selling, an idea that you're sharing, you want as low cognitive load communication as possible, especially in the first transaction, in the first time that they're hearing from you, certainly on the header of your website. Your entire website really needs to be pretty close to zero cognitive load. I'm going to do this on a scale of 0 to 100. I'm about to show you a high cognitive load statement that ends up, by the time we're done with the paragraph, at 100. And I think it's costing this business enormous amounts of money. And I think a lot of us are making the same mistake. So one of the easiest things that you can actually do is go to your website and reduce the cognitive load of your website in order to see an uptick in sales. I literally just did this with one of our websites. And I try to write everything zero cognitive load, but you just can't. It's when you go back to it and you see it from an outsider's perspective that you realize you're talking over people's heads. So when I put, as one of my friends says, the cookies on the lower shelf, more children can reach the cookies. All right, let's get into it. I want to show you exactly what I'm talking about, and you're going to agree with me when you see this. I was recently in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I lead a mastermind. It's a great, fun community. We were out in Colorado for our annual mastermind retreat at this beautiful resort, and I forgot to look at the weather. It was nice and warm in Nashville, and I didn't realize it was going to get down below freezing in Colorado while I was there. Should have looked at the weather, didn't look at the weather. I arrive, it's freezing. I'm like, I need a sweater. So I open up my laptop when I get to the hotel. I Google, actually I went to ChatGPT and said, I'm interested in some clothes in Colorado. I need to buy a sweater. I like Double RL. I like Freenote Cloth. I like Millworks. I like Stag Provisions. Is there anybody here in Colorado Springs who sells men's clothes like that? And they gave me a few options. And one of them was this shop. I'll call it the men's shop. It wasn't the men's shop. It was something else because I've changed the name to protect the guilty. But I went to their website, and on the header of their website, the header of the website wasn't just like, we have great men's clothes, you really ought to check us out. Or if you like American Heritage brand or French workwear, you're going to love our stuff. Whatever it is, they didn't say that. Instead, they led in the header with a section that says About Us. And I'm going to show it to you. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. If you're listening on the podcast, I'll read it to you. But this is what it said actually above the header on the website. About Us. Okay, stop there. I just want to stop there. About Us is making yourself the hero and not the customer. It's not understanding. It's like going on a date. Ladies, do you remember when you were young and single and you'd go on a date with a guy and the whole time he talked about himself and it was really a turnoff? And you didn't feel heard, understood, listened to, and it was really hard to get through the date, and you were just, hope by God, I hope he never calls me again, that whole thing. That's the same thing we do to customers when we talk about who we are, our mission, the impact that we're trying to have in the world, our values, our philosophy. So that in itself is high cognitive load, and by high cognitive load, I mean hard on the customer's brain, not easy to process, not wanting to hear this information. That's high cognitive load. complicated concepts that are difficult to understand that make me feel stupid when you say them. Even though you're trying to sound smart, you're not sounding smart, you're just making me feel stupid. And so a good marketer understands, and a good small business person understands, you need to make your entire website about somebody else, not about you. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't have your picture on there. Doesn't mean there's not pictures of your products. Doesn't mean you don't talk about the awards you've won. You can do that stuff within context, and I'll share that in a minute. But what you really want to do is invite the customer into a story. So I go to this men's shop, let's call it the men's shop, and in the header of the website, it says About Us. And as soon as I saw this paragraph, I didn't have to read it. I knew that I would someday film an example about how bad this is, and today that day has come to pass. Let me just read to you what this says. Welcome to the men's shop where style meets purpose. Okay, stop right there. When I read marketing and messaging statements, I weigh them. And what I mean is, literally, I weigh them like the statement weighs 10 pounds or that statement weighs 5 pounds. And the higher the weight, the harder it is to understand what you're talking about or to care about what you're talking about. I want to propose to you an idea. And the idea is this. The more your messaging weighs, the less people are going to engage, the less people will be interested, and the less of that product you will sell. Bottom line, if you're a politician, the more your statements weigh, the less people are going to vote for you. This is, by the way, like the power of Mamdani, who just became mayor of New York. Every speech he's ever given is zero cognitive load. Now, you can like him, you can not like him. So Mamdani, though, is like far, far, far left. Let's take from the wealthy and give to the poor. But that's not what he says. He doesn't say, here's the fundamental tenets of Marxism and Leninism, Marxist-Leninism. He doesn't say that. What he says is we should have more affordability. And it's unfair that some people can't afford housing and things like that. All statements that are true, but there are complicated, nuanced reasons that these things exist. And he doesn't go there. Literally, he'll talk about how expensive World Cup tickets are and how everybody should be able to afford World Cup tickets. He's taken Marxist-Leninism, he's taken democratic socialism / communism, and he's put the cookies on such an incredibly low shelf that everybody understands what he's talking about. And those who actually have never read Thomas Sowell or some counter arguments to these things, they just buy it hook, line, and sinker. And that's how he got elected. The point is this. I don't think everybody says, well, New York has moved far to the left and the liberals have moved far to the left. And that's not actually what's happening in these elections. What's happening in these elections is the candidate on the right or the left, doesn't matter, who puts the cookies on the lowest possible shelf will win. And then everybody goes, well, it's culture. It's not culture. It's human beings attracted to simple messaging. That's what it is. And if you're on the left and you have the more simple message, you're going to win. And the more disciplined message, you're going to win. And if you're on the right and you have the more simple, disciplined message, you're going to win. And if you actually look at whoever's won the White House in the last, since I've been alive, 50-something years, it's always the person with the simple messaging. Now, the person who is a nuanced thinker and a nuanced communicator and is trying to explain to you what the truth is, loses. For instance, Jeb Bush wrote a book on immigration. Donald Trump had a bumper sticker, build a wall. Who won? The bumper sticker. The zero cognitive load statement beat the intellectual argument. And when you're talking to the masses, remember, this is not a Harvard class. At Harvard class, the rules are different. But when you're talking to the masses, those are the rules. And on your website, as a small business owner, you're talking to the masses. So let's go back. Welcome to the men's shop, where style meets purpose. Okay, what in the world does where style meets purpose mean? Do you know what that means? I have no idea what that means. No clue. I'm sure it means something, but it probably means something to you. And if you have to explain it to me, you are high cognitive load. So if you're watching on YouTube, I'm just going to click through this on a scale of 0 to 100. Where style meets purpose, we're going to add 20 pounds. I can't even articulate what I think they're trying to say. I feel like they're trying to say, we're selling you style and that has to do with our purpose. I don't know. But even again, it's about you, and it's an elusive concept. All right, the next statement. Since opening in 2017, stop. All right, you've been open for less than 10 years. And why do I need that information? I would consider it high cognitive load information to share with me information that I don't need. What do I need? I need a sweater. I need an outfit that looks good. And you are saying in 2017, this is kind of like having a conversation. There was a guy I worked with on a project years and years ago. Lovely human being. Incredibly good at his job. However, if I wanted to know, are we going to be working on this project tomorrow? And I said to him, are we going to be working on this project tomorrow? Here's how he would answer. He would say, yeah, tomorrow we are going to be there, except Jim won't be there because Jim's mom is, I don't know if you heard, Jim's mom is having a surgery on her gallbladder. My uncle actually had a surgery on his gallbladder several years ago. You know, for a long time, I had no idea what the gallbladder did. And I found out, I was watching a YouTube video. By the way, can you believe YouTube has taken off? I watch more YouTube videos than I do. Remember, this is a yes or no question. That's what this is like. You are telling me, I want information. I have come to this website for a reason, and you don't seem to understand the reason. I want to know what kind of clothes you got. And you're telling me you got started in 2017, and I still don't know what kind of clothes you got. So, since opening in 2017, we have been on a mission. Stop. We added 15 pounds, by the way, for 2017. I do understand what you're saying, but I don't care, so I'm still giving it 15 pounds. We have been on a mission, adding 15 more pounds just for that statement, because now I'm hearing about your mission rather than trying to get an answer to my question, what kind of clothes you got. Since opening in 2017, we have been on a mission to not only dress the modern human dress the modern human. Well, what does that even mean? You don't dress dead people? We don't dress dead people. We dress modern humans. We don't dress character actors in movies filmed in the 40s. We dress the modern human in stylish business and professional apparel. By the way, I gave 25 pounds for the modern human because I have no idea what that is, and you're trying to make me think about it. I don't want to be thinking about this. Business and professional apparel. You listen to me, podcast nation. What's the difference between business and professional apparel? Do you know? I don't know. I'm wearing a sweater. Is this business or professional apparel? I have no idea, but I'm giving you 15 pounds for that. I penalize you 15 pounds. But also to make a positive impact on our community. Make a positive impact, adding 10 pounds. Sweet of you to make a positive impact. That's all about you. It's not about me. And I don't need to know that about you. Now, all of this adds up to a cognitive load of 100. So this paragraph weighs 100 pounds. I used to actually, in my workshops, I would bring to the StoryBrand workshops. Some of you who went to those workshops remember this. I would bring like 4 or 5 bowling balls, 8-pound bowling balls. And I would have somebody from the audience come up to the stage, and I would say, first I would say, who here thinks they have a really clear message if I asked you, what do you do? And, 3 or 4 people would raise their hand, and I would say, come on up. And one of them would come up, and then I'd say, hey, who here is a really good listener? Like, people tell you you're a good listener. A bunch of people raise their hand. I would choose one of them. So now I got somebody who thinks they're a good communicator and somebody who thinks they're a good listener. And then I would say, okay, I want you to ask the good communicator the question, what do you do? And they would say, okay, what do you do? And the person who's a good communicator would say, well, my grandfather started a company. I'd say, stop. I want you to you just said your grandfather started a company. The person you said this to is a good listener. I want you to hand them an 8-pound bowling ball. And here's why. That's a concept. They're thinking now about your grandfather. They're wondering how old your grandfather is, how old he was when he died. Is he still alive? What was your relationship like with your grandfather? They are processing information, and it's about 8 pounds of information. So give them this bowling ball. Okay. Well, his company, they'd continue. His company was in the plastics industry. Okay, stop. Hand him another 8-pound bowling ball. We have now gone from them wondering if your grandfather was still alive, what kind of relationship you have, to the plastics industry. And by the way, what's the plastics industry? I don't know what the plastics industry is. I know what plastic is, but now I'm thinking like how do you make plastic? And, is this a big industry? And what does this have to do with me? So hand him another 8-pound bowling ball. We'd keep doing this. Of course, the third bowling ball, which usually took 3 sentences, is impossible to keep hold of. And I would just say, okay, what's going to happen if this guy hands you a 4th bowling ball? And the good listener would say, I'm not going to be able to take it. Well, let's say you had to take it. Well, it's going to be very, very hard. It's going to be struggling. I'm going to drop it. In fact, I'm going to drop all of them on my toes. Exactly. That is what the mind is doing going through your website, small business owners. You are handing people bowling balls. I don't want you to hand people bowling balls. I want you to hand them balloons that don't weigh anything. And you say, well, Don, it's hard to explain what we do without getting technical. You can get technical on like the 5th or 6th interaction. So the header on your website is going to be short bumper sticker statements, and then maybe you've got a lead generator that's stuff like, how to make a lot of money if you own a bowling alley. Well, how to make a lot of money if you own a bowling alley? It's going to attract people who own bowling alleys, and it's a zero cognitive load statement. Then now that I download the lead generator and I'm reading it, you can actually have more high cognitive load statements because they've agreed to commit to carrying more weight. And so it's not that high cognitive load statements are always wrong. They're just always wrong as a first impression or a first interaction. So often, I just did this with a company Monday of this week. The whole marketing team came to town. The CEO came to town. And we just looked at their website. And high cognitive load all the way through it. And we were able to reduce the cognitive load of their statement, of their website significantly, and then their pitch deck significantly. And actually, we were able to boil their message down to a really, really simple message that allowed everybody who saw it to understand, who saw their product to understand what it was and how they could use it. This is a $2 billion company. And look, I asked the CEO, where do you think this is going? And he said, I just can't see us not hitting 100 billion, especially now that people can understand why they need our product and why they should use us. All in the power of words, by the way, all in the power of just lowering cognitive load. And so I want you to think about that as you create messaging and marketing. But the best way to practice this is actually to practice it in your real life at home. And here's what I mean. This morning, I had a morning shoot this morning, so I needed to come to the studio. And we had a long weekend, so my wife was out of town. I was a solo dad. Then she came back. I normally get home between 3:30 and 4:30. And lately, I've been home like between 5 and 6. I've been getting up really early to do some work, and so my wife and I aren't having a very long time together after putting the baby to bed because I'm going to sleep. And so she actually followed me to the front porch and she said, "Hey, I see that you're not home till 5:30 tonight, and that's been a lot of nights in a row. I really would love for us to spend more time together as a family." I've got some choices here. I'm driving to the office, and I'm going, well, I can explain that, like, you went away this weekend, and we had Christmas, and we had family here, and it's not all my fault. I can do that. Or I can give the very lowest cognitive load statement here to say, I'm going to fix this. And so what I did was I texted her and said, hey, I have that 4:30 meeting today. It's the reason I'm not home till 5:30. Moving it to 3:30 so that I'm home by 4:30. I'm hearing you that you want more connected time as a family. Zero cognitive load statement. By the way, she sent me a message, said, love that with a heart. That's right. Not getting into an argument, not trying to explain things that are high cognitive load, solving the problem, scratching the itch, and we're done. We're great, right? With my daughter, she gets up this morning. I got up at 4 to start working, lit a fire in the den, sitting by the fire, got my laptop up. Somehow she heard that I was up, got out, 5 a.m., 4.5-year-old, super excited to spend dad time. I'm like, this is not going to work. Honey, you got to go back to bed for one more hour. There's super, super low. I want you to think, what's the simplest way that I can put this so this person understands? Just think that way. How simply can I put this? And because that solves problems, it gets engagement, it gets customer buy-in. And I'm telling you, if you learn to speak that way and think that way, instead of trying to explain the nuanced truth that nobody hears anyway, because the cognitive load on nuanced truth is too high, I promise you, you will be a better leader, you will be a better marketer, you will be a more successful person, you'll make more money, you could even get elected president. Does that mean there's never a place to have high cognitive load? Absolutely. If you're a professor, people have signed up for your class, they're sitting there with their notebook, go high cognitive load. But in introductory statements, in casual conversation, you want to have as close to zero cognitive load as possible, because those are the statements that get listened to, heard, understood, and acted upon. Don't make the mistake of the men's shop in Colorado. Speak simply to your audience, and they'll listen. Simplify your message, clarify your message, and customers engage.
Thanks for listening to the StoryBrand podcast. No matter where you are in your marketing and messaging journey, get the tools, the training, and the support you need to start clarifying that message at StoryBrand.com. And don't forget to follow and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and then leave a comment letting us know what resonated with you and what we can unpack to help your business grow in a future episode. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.